Welcome back to the Student Hub Live orientation event for early childhood youth and sport here at the Open University. Well, we've had a fantastic morning so far. We've done lots and lots of sessions looking at your tutorials and your tutor relationship. We've heard from other Open University students and we've heard a little bit about the school and much, much more. If you're just joining us and you've missed that, it is available on the catch-up, and very shortly after this event, it will be available on our YouTube channel also. So you can check out that content plus lots more, all about being an Open University student. So the Student Hub Live is the Open University's online, interactive, live platform, and anybody is welcome to these events. You can chat to each other and also ask questions to our team in the studio. And we've got HJ on the hot desk at the moment, who'll be taking your questions and talking to you. And on the sofa, I'm joined by Clancy, who is an educational advisor here at the Open University. And we're going to focus on your student support team. So we've learned that support from your tutor is one of the most important things, but your student support team is a very, very close second. They help with pretty much everything that is non-academic related. Now, Craig is a lecturer. He's also had 12 years experience as an educational advisor, and he works at another university as well. So you are armed with a great deal of experience about not only Open University students, but also teaching and how students learn in general.
Yes, I've been around a lot of places.
Yes.
I've worked with students basically my whole working life, but I've been primarily at the Open University as an associate lecturer and as an educational advisor. And today I'm here to talk about what my role is within the student support team as an educational advisor.
Perfect. Now, we've heard from people on the hot desk already about the student support team, and we know that students can pretty much contact them, and they have this magical way of triaging students to the right person who can help them with pretty much anything non-academic related. So anything that's not about the specific module. What might those things look like?
Oh, well, it can literally be anything. Basically, whenever a student has any sort of concern, which isn't directly about their module. So, you know, if they don't understand something in a course book, they'll talk to their tutor.
Yeah.
But if they're having problems, maybe their outside work is affecting their studies, maybe they're ill.
The dog ate the homework.
Dog ate, that's very common for dogs to eat the homework.
And cats to sit on the homework.
And cats to sit on them, but you know, if you need an extension, if you want to talk about extensions, if you wanted to talk about things like, could you defer your module? Could you take more time to do your degree? Maybe you feel you're on the wrong degree and you want some careers advice. Maybe on lots of degrees, you get an opportunity to choose different modules. So you might want to talk over what might be best for a particular reason, because people are studying for different reasons.
Yeah. And
basically, if your tutor can't help with a certain thing, the SST can. And we are sort of waiting, sitting there from 8 till 8, ready to sort of talk to students about anything.
And you talk on the phone and on email and through a variety of different ways, don't you?
Yes, there's more introduction to things like web chat, but primarily it's over the phone and by email. So, you know, not everybody wants to talk on the phone. They're not comfortable with that. So we can have quite long conversations by email, or, you know, if you want us to call you, we can call you and have a chat when it suits you, because many of our students are working full-time or have caring responsibilities, family responsibilities. So we're very flexible and we're very keen to talk. It's, you know, the whole purpose of the SST is to be there for the student. We want to make their studying as straightforward and supportive as possible.
Now, we've got some questions that we'd like you to fill in for us. What do you think is the most common reason for being granted an extension? So this is something you can think. There's no right or wrong with this one, but have a go and click on the option that applies to you. With these interactive voting tools, you'll see them on the screen. All you do is select the one you want to vote on and then click on the button, and then your results will submit and you'll get to see what everyone else at home says as well. We've also asked which of these is not done by the student support team, and again, there are a range of options. So again, take your pick from that. It's not a test, it's more just out of interest. And which of the following is the most typical OU student? Well, we've already seen that that is very diverse, but again, have a go at what you think is the most typical OU student. Those polls are very much a fun way to engage, and the chat there is also, so any questions, do let us know what that's all about. Now, students can approach you about anything, so they can phone in, they can help, but you deal with a range of quite complex things as well in your role as an educational advisor. Now, I must add really that this is one of the many roles in the student support team. So students might, as you say, speak about extensions and things, but you specialise in some quite interesting areas, things like advocation, crisis calls. They're very sort of specialist sort of skills because, as you say, we've got a lot of students who are very, very diverse. So I wonder if we can talk about advocation and what it is and when students might need it, because for some students, I think sometimes they don't speak to their student support team because they don't know quite what is on offer.
No, you're quite right. I mean, within the SST, as you said, there are different teams to deal with different issues. Now, one of the things which the educational advisors will do will be to advocate, that is, to take on, in a sense, the problems or responsibilities of the student. Because many students have some very serious, very significant problems which are affecting their studies, and without support, without help, they're not going to, they probably won't be able to carry on. Now, one of the issues is that the students simply don't know where to go with this. They don't know who to talk to, so that's what we are there for. The educational advisor, in a sense, is like the last point of call. If a student just doesn't know where to go to, and maybe the other teams are uncertain of what to do, it'll come to us, and then we will talk to the student in detail, find out what's going on, and then we'll go away, because some things are so difficult that can't be dealt with there and then. So we'll say to the student, we'll get back in touch with you, then we'll go away and talk to different people, different places, and find out what's going to be the best solution for the student.
Now, students don't need to worry about that because, as we said before, it's all triage, so they'll just phone up and speak to somebody who'll be able to help. And if they can't help, they'll again pass it on to the right people. Advocation, though, as the name implies, is really sort of, I guess, quite complex and often speaking for students on specific issues that can be quite challenging. What sorts of situations might that require, and when might a student really find that useful? I'm just imagining maybe sometimes it can just all feel a bit much and actually you don't feel able to speak for yourself and you don't really know what the answer is.
Yes, I mean, everybody, like you said, the Open University is very diverse. We deal with pretty much everybody as an OU student. And terrible things, very significant things can happen to students. It could be a bereavement, it could be a serious illness, it could be any sort of issue affecting their work or life. Some students are made homeless, during their studies, and they simply don't know what to do with that. Obviously you're probably not going to be thinking about your degree if something like that is happening, but at the same time it's just one more issue to look at. We obviously can only help with certain things, but it's anything connected with their studies, we can talk to the student and take that on for them. We don't want the student to, have to go and find out who they need to talk to. We will do that for them. We're very much about taking that responsibility in order to help the student.
And sometimes, I mean, we can always think, yes, I'll get an extension, that'll give me an extra 2 weeks, I don't need to worry. But that's not always the best thing for the student. And I guess one of the challenges of your role is to really find out what is best for that student. For some students, keeping studying is such an important thing and it can hold them in a very difficult position. For other students, it needs to go and they need to focus. But every student is so different. How do you work with students to help them take a view on the right solution for them?
Well, we don't have a one-size-fits-all policy, certainly not, because that's not going to work for everybody. As you say, some students who are having a problem, they might just need a 2-week extension, which they can ask the tutor for. But somebody else, they might need 4 or 5 weeks. But within that, we've then got to talk to the student about whether or not that's actually going to help. So, another role for the educational advisor is to talk in detail with the student about whether or not what they initially think may help them is actually going to be of use. And we will raise other possibilities, other options which might help them. Because there's always, there's more than one sort of alternative. There'll be several choices that we can look at. It might be they can defer a module, come back later, because it can sometimes be impossible to carry on. or it could just be we can look at maybe giving multiple extensions if that's warranted. But there were always lots of options, and we're always there to talk to the student about what's going to be best for them. We're very keen to help the student as best we can to get through their studies.
Must be quite a challenging job, because I guess you're mainly in this area hearing from students when it's not going so well.
That's the whole purpose of the job. You know, as a tutor, obviously I see the nice side with people getting through the courses, but with it, for the educational advisor, the whole purpose is that we basically sit there during the hours of the day and the evening waiting for students who are having some difficulties, who are having some problems. Sometimes it's not as bad as the student thinks. They may think they have to drop out when they don't. Other times it is serious, but that's the whole point. That's why we're there. And we want to hear from people. You know, we wouldn't want anyone to think that, you know, they can't phone up about this, or even if they're unsure, can I call the OU about this? Well, you can. You know, we will always be there to talk to. And if it's something which, you know, the university can't help you with, it might be something we can, you know, pass you a number, refer you on to another agency which could help you with something. You know, if a student was being made homeless, which is something which has happened to me with students I've known, then you can refer students on to the agencies which can help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And sometimes being able to talk to somebody is really good, just to take a moment to stop and see what the scenarios are and the ranges of options available. Because as you say, you know, sometimes a student might think that they have to drop out, and you might be able to talk to them about things like substituting an assignment, or maybe, you know, a partial submission. There must be lots of tricks of the trade that you can sort of use to get through, if that is indeed the goal. Yes,
I mean, there are. I mean, I don't want to confuse people too much today, but what I would say is that there are many different things that can be done for the student whilst they are studying. You know, the obvious one would be extensions, but there are things, as you mentioned, like substitution, where you can literally miss out an assignment and it won't necessarily affect your score. There are deferrals, things called discretionary postponements, all manner of different levels of support, techniques, what you might call tricks of the trade, which, because we know about them, we don't expect the students to, because, you know, we give the student a big booklet. Well, we do, it's all electronic, of course. There's a lot to read through, and we don't really expect everyone to read through everything, but we know what's there. So if you call us and say, well, this is what's happening, we can then say, well, have you thought about this? Maybe we could talk about that. We give the student the options, the alternatives. In the end, you know, the student has to make their own mind up about what's going to be best for them, but we are very much there about helping them make the best decision for their studies.
Now, you mentioned that tutors can allow an extension, and so can the student support team. And we don't want students, as you say, to get worried about how to navigate or what to do, just that those two people will help, and if they can't help, they'll point you in the right direction. But what is the lowdown on extensions then?
Well, it's quite straightforward. I mean, the good thing is, in the first instance, if you need an extension, you just go to your tutor, and tutors can give an extension of up to 3 weeks. If it's after 3 weeks, then it would come to us in the student support team, where we would contact the faculty, usually the student services manager, and they can give an extension then. So there's always lots of scope for extensions if required. We try, obviously, it's not good for students to get extension after extension, because it, you know, it builds up. It'll get in the way of things, but we understand that students have lives. I think about 70% of our students are in full-time work, so people are busy, people have lives, people have children, people have all sorts of responsibilities. So getting an extension is not a big deal, it's not a problem anyway.
Yeah, but you all know, I guess, how important and when it's a good idea to, and when it isn't. So that's always useful to be able to talk through. OK, we asked you earlier which of these is not done by the student support team, so let's see what you had to say. 48% said careers advice, 35% advice about fees, and the lowest of them is questions about support for students with disabilities. So what do you think of that, Craig? Are our audience right? Have they been listening?
Pretty much. I mean, in a sense, it's the careers service is separate, but they're also part of the SST. So we've got people from careers sitting in with the SST. If somebody wants some careers advice, then they would ask us to make an appointment for them.
Yeah.
The one which stands out there is about fees.
Yeah.
That's sort of outside of the SST, really. It goes to the registration service.
Yeah.
We can tell people how much a module is, and we can talk about, you know, what happens if you defer a module or leave your module at a certain point. But when it comes to sort of fees and regulations, that is a different department. With regards to the disability support team, of course, that's a separate area. But again, we also talk about different needs, additional needs, disability support, because that's part of the role as well. But we will refer people through to the disability support team when it's necessary to do so.
Okay. Now, you also offer study support, which I guess would be the nicer end of the sort of spectrum. So for some students who might have challenges with time management or fitting it all in, again, you know a lot of where the resources are, so you could point students very quickly in the right direction. Can they come to you for study support if they're doing well and there's no crisis, there's nothing really going wrong? They just might say, actually, I'm not quite sure I've got this studying thing right.
Yes, well, there's three main places where the student can look for support with their studies. We put a lot of information which you can go to online on their student homepage.
Yeah.
But obviously they can also talk to their tutor, and tutors will, as part of their given tutorials, will discuss things like essay writing, time management. But you can also call the SST to talk about things like time management. That's quite a common one because, you know, the Open University, by its nature, students are often very busy,
Yes.
studying part-time. So time management is a major issue. So you can talk to us, talk to the tutor, but also there's an awful lot of information on your student home about how to, you know, lots of students worry about referencing.
Yeah.
It's a big issue everywhere I go.
Yes.
And there's lots of help with that. I mean, the tutor would be the first person to ask, but also online, lots of information about it.
Yes, and we'll be hearing from the library later today. I know a lot of you are looking forward to that, and they'll be covering a lot of the resources for undergraduate study. And then in the evening, we've got some postgraduate study from the library also. They're another wonderful group of people who can help you. Finally, I just wanted to ask a little bit about how you go about doing this, because clearly you're going to have to use a lot of, I don't know, I guess counselling skills, like being with students on the phone and things. Are you guys all trained in that sort of thing? And how does that work in terms of dealing with some of these really complex issues?
Well, it's a good question, because all the educational advisors come from quite different backgrounds. I do come from a counselling background. But I suppose the thing to remember is, whilst we'll use counselling skills or coaching skills, we're not a counselling service. So if a student requires something as significant as counselling, we would refer them to a counselling service. But we do have to use these skills because, you know, we're talking to students who may be having some issues or some problems, and we want to appear, you know, we want to be as supporting and empathic as possible. So, as you've said, it is difficult at times, but we are all very experienced, different backgrounds. Some of us are tutors, lecturers, some people have come from disability support backgrounds, different backgrounds, guidance backgrounds. A couple of people are careers advisors. So there's lots of different people, and we'll ask each other, you know, if we've been talking to a student, what do you think of this? So, you know, there's a good team ethic as well there.
Perfect. Now, you said that there are a range of options for how people can get in touch. So can you just remind our audience about how they can get in touch with their student support team and when?
Well, the easiest way is either just to email, and it will eventually get to us. As you said, things get triaged. The people at the front desks who will look at things and say, well, this needs to go there, this needs to go there. And it's the same when you call up, it'll get triaged to us. It'll usually go to what a person called a senior advisor, and they will talk to the student, and if it's felt that, well, this sounds like it should go to an educational advisor, they'll put us through.
Which is quicker?
It depends how busy the time of year is. Because obviously at different times of year things can be very busy. The start of the term, lots of students got lots of questions. Sometimes we may have to call people back. You might not get through straight away, but you will be called back. You'll go into a queue, and we work very fast, very hard to get back to people as quickly as possible. So, you know, we won't ignore anybody.
No, I know. You're a wonderful support. So thank you, Craig, for coming and filling us in. That's been fantastic. The student support team really, really are a fantastic resource, and use them whether you're in crisis or not to help you with your studies. And as we said earlier, your tutor and your SST, if you're not sure, send an email to one of them, but don't be on your own with any issues that you've got. You know, take responsibility for those things and do ask for help when you need it. And both of those resources will certainly point you in the right direction if indeed they can't help you at source. Okay, well that's the end of this session. Our next session is going to be childhood and youth studies. So join me after this next student video where we are going to take a look at Martin Luther. And after that we'll be taking some of the Childhood and Youth Studies team to look at themes and perspectives. So I'll see you then.